Hello everyone and welcome back to La Vida Fútbol. My name is Luis Laureano. Today we're going to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of the 4-4-2 flat formation. Okay, so as you can see here we have our 4-4-2 and we're gonna start off with discussing the disadvantages. So one of the things that you can see here is that if we're with respect to the blue, we're lacking a number 10 player. So if you take a look at this formation, while this would be good defensively for us to kind of create a numerical advantage here, if we do manage to get the ball, you know, we don't have a direct playmaker to pass to so that we can essentially attack right away. Okay, another thing that is a disadvantage with the 4-4-2 formation is that the distance between the strikers and the midfield line is too big. So this distance makes it a lot more difficult for for transition to be made possible through the middle to the attackers. So thus creating, situations where we have to attack through the sides if we recover the ball. Or if there is space, we could dribble through, but again, the space has to be there in order for that to be possible. Okay, another thing that essentially could be a disadvantage, and this is more of a disadvantage for attackers, at least the strikers, is that the strikers are essentially, lone soldiers up there. Like we talked about earlier, the space is very big in between, or the distance, between the strikers and the midfield line. So a lot of the times these strikers are going to have to go all the way down to recover a ball, simply to have to pass it to the other side. And for an attacker to get balls there would not, it's not the same as getting the ball here and being able to create a shot opportunity, or a shooting opportunity, I should say. So, that being said, attackers really need to fend for themselves, and they really need to, first of all, have an understanding with one another, right? Because, the balls that they do receive, they will have to share. So these two should be able to match, which is another disadvantage, is that if these two strikers do not match and do not play well with one another, then that could cause some serious problems in the attacking situation, because now you have two different styles, two different players that essentially don't necessarily get along, and that's already that would be two players that you're losing if these two players do not understand each other. Okay. Another disadvantage with this 4-4-2 is the triangulation. So if we take a look here, that is a very uncomfortable looking triangle there. So triangulations moving forward are a little bit less available than in other formations. So then that's something that with the 4-4-2 you need to consider, if that is something that you as a coach are trying to employ with your team, is that just make sure that if you have some playmakers in your team, then this might not be the best formation for your team, right? It just depends on how you transition on attack. But if you keep the 4-4-2 also in the attack, so if the 4-4-2 formation is a big important part of your system of play, both on defense and offense, then you need to consider that you will have to play through the outsides if you really want to penetrate through the offensive on the offensive end of the field. Okay, so some things that you need to keep in mind if you do use the 4-4-2. Another thing that we need to consider with the 4-4-2 is that, and I'm going to kind of go into the advantage, one of the advantages in order to explain this disadvantage. So an advantage actually from having a 4-4-2 formation is that you're very linked up, and rotations are comfortable to make, and if everybody does their job, then it's really good and effective with recovering the ball in the mid area of the field. So essentially, like middle field pressing could be very effective with the 4-4-2. But now going into what makes that a disadvantage is that if your team practice so well to defend and to move and to shift together, and then the team decides to play long balls, now all that training that you did went to waste, because now you're playing against a team that's avoiding you in the middle, that's avoiding all your players and all your shifting and all your movement and going straight into attack. So now you can still shift here, but now you lost the whole line of players that could have won the ball in the center. Okay, so those are some of the disadvantages with having the 4-4-2. Some things to consider, but definitely not enough for you to not do it. I like the 4-4-2. I like that it's very dynamic. But yeah, I'll talk a little bit more about that as I go into the advantages. Okay, so now let's take a look at the advantages of a 4-4-2. So here we have, as you can see here, the 4-4-2, and this is essentially on offense because our left center back has the ball here. But as you can see here, the depth and the width, we are optimizing the space on the field. So we have essentially a player covering all areas of the field. There is a bit of a gap there, but that can definitely be used for the strikers checking in and out to try to receive a ball. But yes, if we are using the 4-4-2, as you can see here, we can create numerical advantages on the wings. So here we have a 3 versus 1, and even if we push up higher up the field, we will have a 3 versus 2 situation, and if this player decides to join in, then this player will essentially be out of place, giving us the opportunity to play a ball into the center. Because here we have a number 10, and here we have the left attacker, so we would be able to take advantage of that space there. But again, that would be building through the outside, so through the wings, both on the left and the right. So that is definitely an advantage. Okay, so an advantage for a coach, for example, would be that the 4-4-2 can be very dynamic during a game. Meaning that if you see that something is not functioning properly, you can, easily from a 4-4-2, you can change your formation a little bit without putting players in uncomfortable situations or positions where they're not normally used to playing. So a 4-4-2, for example, could become a 4-1-4-1. So if you have a number 6 that likes to stay back a little bit more, but you don't have a number 10, but you do have 2 midfielders that can really hold the ball, then now you've created a 4-1-4-1 situation out of your 4-4-2 without really taking too much away from your players' skills and their qualities. Okay, so that's something that's important, especially as a coach, that you can make these changes, and a 4-4-2 makes it very, very accessible and a very practical formation to be able to change also to a 4-2-3-1, which is a popular situation with teams. They defend on a 4-4-2, and then they attack on a 4-2-3-1. So those are some things that can be advantages for the 4-4-2 formation. Now there is one thing that I forgot to mention for the disadvantages, and that's if you attack with your wings. If you attack with your wings and you lose the ball, right? So let's say you're going for an overlap here, right? So So you want to get an overlap there and then pass the ball there. If that ball gets stopped and the attacking team now, or the opponents get the ball, now we have a very uncomfortable situation where we have our left center back so far out that it creates an uncomfortable situation if these attacking players are faster. Okay, so that is something that we also need to be careful with, because with the 4-4-2, we definitely do want to use our left and right backs to attack as well, but we have to be careful with how high they go, and we have to be comfortable with them dribbling up the field, and we have to trust their abilities. But if you don't have left and right backs that can do that, then it's probably best that they hold back a little bit so that you don't get caught in a inferior number situation against the opponent. Okay, so that is pretty much it with the 4-4-2. I hope this helps you guys. If you like the video, hit like. So if you guys have any comments, questions, or concerns, then drop those on the comment section, and I'll be happy to respond. Let me know also if you guys use the 4-4-2 formation, and if you agree or disagree with what I mentioned up here. Yeah, let me know. So thank you guys. Remember to subscribe. You guys can do that in different areas here on my YouTube channel. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time.